Hi, and welcome to the first episode of Soul Sessions. Today I'm going to share a little bit about me and my journey as a Black Latina therapist. I'll talk about the challenges I faced, the lessons I've learned, and how my identity has really shaped my path both in therapy and in life. Tune in for a glimpse into my story and what you can expect from this podcast moving forward. So I think I'll just start with my upbringing a little bit. I was raised primarily by my mom, who is extremely Puerto Rican, um, and my father, who is a black man, hence Black Latina. But my world has always been extremely women centered, I think is the best way to describe it. So I lived with my mom all my life, still live in her basement. Um, she is what I sometimes would describe as my entire world. She is everything I would want to be when I grow up, even though I'm kind of grown already. But she really taught me the importance of education, loving myself, and really being authentically who I am. But as a Puerto Rican, kind of, olive tone, lighter skinned woman, there are some things that she couldn't really teach me how to be. She often says she couldn't teach me how to be a black woman or how to navigate the world in the way that I present. For some more background of how I look, I have type 4 hair. I'm little on the brown skin tone of color. I just look, when you see me and my mom standing next to each other, I sometimes look like I don't belong to her. Like if we didn't have the same eyes and same smile, we look very different phenotypically. I'm also tall. I'm on the curvier side. So I don't know, there's just a lot of differences between me and her that she felt that she couldn't really help me navigate in the same way. So I have spent a lot of my time navigating my black identity on my own, whether that's through, social media, movies, music, um, making friends that were black, which was kind of hard for me as I went to a predominantly white school almost all of my life. I didn't really have, I spent time living in areas where I was the only black girl in the school. I was the only black girl 1 of 20. I went to a college that also had a very small black population, black and brown population in general. But throughout those different times in life, I really found my people. In high school, I met some of my best friends in the entire world who are Latinas, black girls, white girls. In college, I really met my core group of friends who's also Latinas, black girls. And I really appreciate all of them and everything they've given me in my journey. But this podcast is going to focus mostly on my graduate experience and kind of how much I have struggled, honestly, as a Afro Latino or black woman, Latino woman, every intersection of my identity, and how much, in a way, this has really torn me down and built me up at the same time. So back to what I was kind of talking about. I've always lived in a very women-centered world. I was raised by my mom. My mom has 2 master's degrees. She went back to school when I was around 10. I watched her really, really emphasize the importance of being educated and in order to get what you need. So while my mom was working all the time, I spent a lot of time with my my aunt and uncle, who helped to raise me a lot. And my aunt was also led a very women-centered household as well. And she was also a true inspiration to me too. And she went back to school when about the same time my mom did, honestly. So there were 2 women in my life that were really pursuing their dreams and ambitions, regardless of where they stood in society. And I couldn't be more proud of both of them. And to add to that, around the age of 10, all this was, now that I'm talking about this was all around the same time. My grandmother moved in with us, my mom's mom, who is a force to be reckoned with. She is another amazing woman. She had 6 children. She raised them all. She raised my mother, which is enough for me. But she's great. She's been a force in my life forever. I am the first grandchild on both sides of my family, actually, to pursue a graduate degree, an advanced degree. I have cousins that have gone to college, but I'm the first to kind of go a little further. If you ask my grandma, she thinks I'm gonna be a doctor, but I'm just getting my master's for now. But she's just so proud of me, and I also couldn't be more proud to make her proud. So that's just a little bit about me. It's very interesting how life has kind of treated me these last few years. Graduate school, like, I always knew graduate school was going to be hard. I never, ever expected it to be this tough. And I really put that on my identity. Being a woman of color. I'm also extremely assertive. I'm extremely confident in who I am. And for the first time in my life, that was kind of not really seen so much as a strength, but as something for somebody to pick on. So I've really been navigating how to stand in my truth and continue to live my truth while people are really, really trying to tear me down. And people that I'm supposed to kind of look up to, and people that are supposed to guide me through this process. It's been incredibly, incredibly eye-opening. On the academic side, I really didn't expect that, because my previous experience when I was in college and undergrad, although I was in a predominantly white space, everything has its struggles, obviously, pros and cons, but I never ever felt this exclusatory behavior that I feel now. It's just so different. So I thought I would kind of just start with that, yeah, and talk more about my graduate experience. So I am currently I probably shouldn't even be saying this because I'm not even graduated yet, but I'm 2 quarters away from graduating with my master's in clinical counseling with a research concentration. And this has been hell. Like, totally fucked. Don't know why I did this. I have cried countless times. I have been beaten down. My self-confidence has been wore down. I've been depressed, anxious, all of the above. All of this stuff has really affected my mental health. And I really, really blame the air in academia. I don't know what it is. There's just something that's just not made for people like me. And I really don't know how to sometimes work with that. So in my program, I am the only, when I first entered, maybe not now, I was the only black student. And that was obvious from day one. I've been in all white spaces before my entire life. I've been in all black spaces, all Latino spaces, and I have still never felt this heavy burden in the same way that I do. The heavy burden to be the best, and not the best because I don't really strive to be the best in the room, but just be a better version of me. But I don't know, I feel like there's this unset expectation put on top of me because of who I am. But a little glimpse, my first week, I wore my hair straight. I have no idea why I did that. I wear my hair in an afro all the time. I'm very confident in that. So I don't even know why I did that, to be honest. Now that I'm saying that too, it's kind of weird. Maybe some like internalized thing going on there, that I'm going into a different professional environment, so I should look quote unquote professional, how white people perceive professional at least. And so first week during orientation, I wore my hair straight. I think my face is pretty much the same no matter how I wear my hair. Just saying that just because. The next week, obviously, I had washed my hair, so my hair was back to being curly, big afro, how I usually wear it. And one of my classmates, a white male, as we had, like, I was walking down the hallway, he had come right across from me, like, we kind of intersected a little bit, and he looked at me, he said, "Oh, hey, Jess, I didn't recognize you with all the hair," and, like, made a gesture to my hair. And I should have known from that point forward this was going to be an interesting time. And it has been. It's been like crazy. I don't even know what else to describe it as. I've, really sat in classrooms where people are surprised by my intelligence or surprised by my experience, and that really irks me to no end. No end. So yeah, so that, I don't know how to describe it. It feels very demeaning and just weird that in 2023 at the time that is a comment we can make. And he is probably one of the most ignorant people I've ever met in my life, just for reference. And that was my, first, introduction with my peers, honestly. And that was not fun at all. But in that same week, I met one of my best friends in the entire world, who probably doesn't want me to say their name, so I'm not going to. We sat next to each other in orientation, and they have been a beacon of light for me. Always has my back. Coincidentally, a white girl, because I was the only black girl. But they really, really, really have been crucial to my development. And I don't want to give credit to a white person like that because that's just not who I am. Like, I know myself, but there have been times where she has really held her ground about me, and words cannot express how appreciative I am for her presence. She is like the definition of what a ally should be, and she is constantly willing to learn and willing to grow, and I appreciate that about her so much. So graduate school hasn't been all like complete shit. Um, there have been times where I've really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoy my profession as a psychologist. I think it. I think I am like so crucial to the change in a way that I maybe never thought of before. Like when I reflect, I'm sitting in classrooms where I'm the only black person there, the only Black Latina who looks the way I do, Afro Latina, whatever the case may be, who speaks Spanish, who is immersed into both of my cultures. And I remember my first class, I sat there and I realized I have never, ever had, for me at least, a therapist that looks like me, that represents my culture, had a professor that looks like me. I've been in school forever. Never have had a professor that looks like me until last year. About 6 months into my graduate school experience, my program director is a black woman. She's also been extremely pivotal kind of in my growth as a therapist and as a student and as a person, if I'm being honest. But I'm sitting in classrooms where I am the sole representation sometimes for my people. And when we're talking about black people mental health or Spanish people mental health, everybody looks to me like I have all the answers. I don't. I grew up in a family where we ignored mental health. I was depressed for a long time, and my parents didn't know how to handle that because they weren't equipped with the tools necessary to help me in the way that I needed. And so I'm sitting in classrooms where they're looking to me for advice. I don't know what to do either. Like I'm just as like blindsided as you in ways, like, and kind of when I think about it, the therapy that I've learned and the tools that I've learned are not made for people of color. Just like when we look at research, when we look at the books, they're written by white people for white people. And if there are black and brown people involved, it was like an experiment. It's just a very weird field. So I don't take my presence as representation for all of my people. I don't. I take my presence as a representation of me and how much it would mean to me as a little girl to see someone that looks like me, because I think I could have been on a completely different path if that had happened sooner. Not saying that this path isn't for me right now, but I think there could have been something really special there. So I hope that my presence does that. But when I'm sitting in class, I'm kind of like, y'all, I don't know either. What are we talking about, right? Why is everybody looking at me? I am not the spokesperson for black people. I'm really not. So, or brown people, or people of color in general. Everybody has a very unique experience. There is no monolithic, there is no same way to be a person of color. And I really wish that people would understand that. Mostly the white people I interact with. So, I'm really struggling with that. I also have struggled with, how do I describe this without going too much into detail? The way that professors view me and the harsh criticisms I receive is so different from my white counterparts. I have, in my 2 years at this school particularly, I have been subjected to things that I don't think any person should ever be exposed to. I've been accused of things I didn't do. I've been treated differently, like obviously differently, when even some of my peers have been like, that was weird. I've been microaggressed multiple times. I've been in places where they feel that I shouldn't even be at the table, and I am the most qualified person to sit at that table. Like, this is a random example, but I'm part of Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, which means nothing there because they're whatever. I'm not whatever. But there's a bulletin board, and it has the pictures of all the members on the committee. Only black girl, looking the way I do. My picture wasn't on there for a whole year and a half. I had sent my picture 4 separate times, never made it on the bulletin board. Never. Just this year, I finally got my name and my picture on there. Just little things like that. And And sometimes I would tell myself, am I crazy? Like, that's not intentional. But then I'm like, everybody else is on there. Why? Like, there's just little things that I maybe have internalized too much, but that still doesn't devalue my experience or how I feel in those moments. So it kind of is just like, we're tokenizing you in a way, or like you're just here because we want you here, like, those types of things. And I've sat in, I've I've been a part of things where I've been almost used as an administrative assistant versus used for my skill set that I bring to the table. And sometimes my skill set is unknown or unheard because nobody listens. Nobody asks me anything. I try to share about who I am, and it's blatantly ignored, and that hurts a lot because I have poured a lot into myself and into my education and into my field because I really, really care about what I do, and I really want to help people, especially people that look like me. And then to go into this space where education has always been a safe space for me, in a way. In a weird way, it's been a safe. I've always excelled at school. So to come into this area where I have these thoughts, I have these ideas, and I'm constantly shot down, constantly told I'm not good enough, constantly told you are not valuable, it breaks you down. Like, there's no other way to describe it but broken. And in the past year and a half, I have been broken down, beat down, kicked in the stomach, kicked in the face, spit on, figuratively. And now I'm finally at the point where I'm really rebuilding, and I am rebuilding much stronger, much more resilient. And honestly, I could care less what any of these people think about me. I don't give a fuck. I'm at the point where, like, I genuinely don't care. And I think this starting to show a little bit. But again, don't care. What are you gonna do? I've gotten to the point with some of these people where I can't even look at them in the face because they have done some like egregious things, and I don't know what else to do. If it were in any other setting, I would not be around them. I would completely cut myself off, but that's just not kind of how this went, so I'm kind of stuck. And in this stuckness, I found the inspiration for Soul Sessions. And I want Soul Sessions to be a place for honest conversations where I talk about what it means for me to be a Black Latina, Afro Latina, navigating the different worlds of therapy, identity, and my life, to be honest. I'll be sharing more stories about my school experiences. My therapy experiences have been really interesting, and all the lessons I've really learned throughout this time about being authentic in spaces that aren't always designed for people like me. And I think honestly the one thing I've gotten amazing at, this is gonna sound kind of conceited, is being authentic. I that's I really It is so hard to get to the point where you really, really don't care what people think about you. But once you get there, it is so freeing. It is so liberating, so beautiful. And I really want to I hope that my story could kind of introduce people to this idea of authenticity and being yourself. So, with that, I hope that this podcast serves as a space for connection, reflection, and empowerment for anyone on a journey of self-discovery and healing. So, with that, I'm signing off, and I hope you stay tuned for more real talk and raw truth in the episodes ahead.